Yogi Bear is smarter than the average bear. Yogi Bear is always in the ranger's hair. At a picnic table you will find him there.
Well, hello and welcome to another session of neighborhood training. I know you're all excited to get back into this. We've taken a little bit of a break and worked our way through the neighborhood to the north of 151 and the east of 28A, and now we're going to go the other section. We're going to go south of 151 and east of 28A. The section that just for the purposes of this presentation, we'll talk about, say, the Winslow Road East or the Dove Hill neighborhood, that whole section bounded by south of 28, east of 28A, and west of 28. We'll take it down to the Curly Boulevard Rotary on this particular section, and then next week we'll go south of the Curly Boulevard Rotary and kind of take it in a couple of pieces as we go along. So just as an overview, I'm sure everybody will be aware of it. Of course, this is 151, 28A going down, Route 28, and then right in here is the north, the Curly Boulevard Rotary. So we're going to take this section here and break it out and see what we got. And I think that be a few things different in this neighborhood of Falmouth as opposed to some of the other neighborhoods. Now we get into some areas that are mixed, residential and commercial, and we'll begin to see that that brings about some different hazards. First off, I want to look at this section up in the top here, which is the area of Willow Nest and Beeman Lane. Let's see if we can do a little bit better here. We're trying to really work on these graphics, and I still haven't found the good combination that we really get some good graphics. So I still apologize for not having the graphics just right yet, but we're working on it. It's all a work in progress. So anyway, so this is Willow Nest. 151's up top. Across the street is that Summerwind development, and this is fairly new development in here that's probably been in, I'd say, less than 10 years. Yeah, I'd probably say less than 10 years. It used to be a nursery, a garden center type place, but it has been developed, and some of the houses, as you can see from here, are pretty substantial in their size. We'll show some pictures of them as we go by. And one of the other features that we'll see in this neighborhood here is Willow Nest is some of these long driveways, all the way down here. I mean, this is probably I don't know. Let's take a look and see if we can figure that out. Let's see if we can go feet. Move this up here, and if we can go measure this out, this driveway down to here. All right. I don't know why it's not doing that. I don't know. Oh well, I guess we have a little malfunction here. Oh, it's line. Okay, let's try this. We'll go to here. There we go. That's better. Okay. So we're looking at approximately a 400-foot driveway into this house here. So it's just something to keep in mind as we going in. So one of the importance of our standard operating guidelines of laying into all reported and or confirmed building fires. And I say reported and or confirmed because our initial dispatch was for a reported structure fire. If we're going out to a first alarm assignment to a reported building fire, then we will lay a line. And this is one of the reasons why And I also put in the SOGs about being confirmed, because sometimes we do get confirmed, fires from the police department, from a reliable caller, and so forth. So it doesn't have to be one or the other, it's either or. But if you're going out to a building fire, we will lay in. Okay, so, and as we can see here, there's a few houses or buildings together here, and this house over here is pretty substantial. I mean, we're talking about probably a 3,000 square foot house right over here, and then some other long driveways over here. Over in this section over here. So we'll just zoom out there for a second, and whoa, too far. Okay, this thing wants to do a little malfunction here, I guess. Wow. Okay, well, pardon that little distraction here. Pardon that distraction while we get in here. Let's see what we can find out. Okay, let's see if we can get this thing to stop here a minute. Okay, there we go. All right. Sorry for that little distraction there. Okay, and off of Willow Nest, or actually something that existed before, is Beeman Lane, and Beeman runs from this intersection all the way over to the intersection here with 28A, 151. And County Road, and the Beach House restaurant is right here, formerly the Willowfield. That's been constructed probably 15 years or so, and we had the fire at the Willowfield. But so we have Beeman Lane, and as we go down from there, now this is Willow Nest. The next road that we get into is Willowfield. So this is important for dispatch, that we pronounce and know the address that we're going to and pronounce it correctly, whether it's Willow Nest or Willowfield, Willowfield Drive, or Red Oak Drive. I believe we did have, let's see, just at my own, we have Red Oak over there, and didn't we have something up here, Red Wing. All right, that's what we had. Red Wing Terrace off of Silver Point, and then we have Red Oak on the other side off of Willowfield. And Willowfield is a little unusual in that the town nowadays does not allow a long dead-end road without a secondary means of egress from the development. And that was a planning tool that was done years ago, and with good intents, that if this front entrance to the development got blocked off due to some sort of accident, say a hazardous materials incident or something like that, that the folks in this neighborhood would not be able to get out. So a lot of the newer developments have a secondary means of egress, and this one does not. But it is a rather long dead-end road, and Willowfield, the houses, I'd probably say they're probably, in the 1,500 to 2,000 square foot area, and spaced apart, so we don't have much exposure problems. And all right, there is this one house here that's set way back, long driveway with a pool in the back, so it's a good size home. One of the, while we're right here and we're talking about it, one of the hazards that we will be talking about, that we haven't had, and knock on wood, we won't have any issues with the railroad line that runs through parts of Falmouth. But just remember that it does exist, and that primarily it's used for hauling trash. So we could have a container with trash in it that catches on fire or has some sort of a hazardous materials or a derailment. They don't go through that fast through here, so chances of it being a major catastrophic derailment are probably pretty slim, but you know, they would do as well. And one of the other things that I've found, just some local information, well, as we'll also say, that these railroad tracks on this side now have all been torn up and they're going to be turned into a bicycle path. So this is going to be our bike path running from running all the way down into Winslow. So the folks in North and West Falmouth to deal with the bike path, but we have the railroad tracks. But what I wanted to mention is underneath this section here is being used now and then as a little place for homeless folks to stay underneath here, but it's also been a partying spot for some of our local teenagers. So they apparently park over in the development on Edgerton Drive and walk through the woods and do a little party, and sometimes they have little bonfires underneath. So just something to be aware of. We haven't had any, I won't say we haven't had any hazards with the train, because we did have a train hit a car at that intersection up by County Road up on here, because it does not have a crossing barrier. So we did have an accident there one year, and we've had a couple of brush fires along the tracks at times. So as we go through that, this is Edgerton Drive, and as you notice, this flyover by Google is fairly older, because now we do have a multi-family housing development in here. But the Edgerton Drive is a commercial area, and so we do have a mix of commercial types of construction in here. We have concrete, block construction. We have lightweight steel construction. We have a medical facility up here. And this is an older picture, because it shows the gas tank that used to be up there. That used to be one of the hazards we had to deal with years ago, but currently you do not have to. So this is an older section picture, but keep in mind that we do have a mix up in that area, and we do have a 1-1 box with the surgery center up in there. Now, the other thing, the other next neighborhood I want to go into is this Winslow Road neighborhood. Years ago, Winslow Road obviously goes across 28A and comes over here to Old Main. But this east side of Winslow used to come up to right around in here and stop. But it has since then become enlarged and become a larger development. So that's something that we will deal with. But one thing, I guess the reason why I wanted to mention that is this section of Winslow Road has been in existence since probably the 50s or 60s. So the houses that you're going to see in this section of Winslow Road are going to be from the 50s and 60s. They're going to be capes and ranches with that older type of construction. But as we move through the development, you will see this West Hill Road and Dove Hill Road. They're all newer construction, probably within the last 20 years, probably 25, maybe going on 30. But at least from 1980 on up, I would say, whereas the other houses are probably from the 50s. So we just keep that in mind, the difference in the construction. And this is an older Google map, and if we go up there currently, we will see that this area here has been extended, and it is paved, and it is developed all the way up in this section here. Okay, so there are houses up in here. It's the extension of Winslow. And oddly enough, as I mentioned before about Willow Field needing a secondary, or not needing a secondary means of egress at the time that that was constructed, you'll see here that this development does have a secondary means of egress out of the development here. However, I drove up in it the other day, and in its finished state, it's a grass lane with some like concrete reinforcement on it, and it does wind its way through the woods here. However, it goes nowhere. I don't know who oversees this stuff at Town Hall, the planning development, or who oversees this stuff, but it's rather crazy because as a secondary means of egress, it's useless. This area here in this corner of the old Benthos property, there's trees across here, and there's no way a vehicle is going to drive up there and use this as a secondary means of egress. There's all trees through there. So, anyway, that's just a little pet peeve issue that looks kind of weird as we go through. All right, enough of that. So then we're going to work on this Dove Hill neighborhood here, and right across from the Village Pantry, we have this condo development. It used to be a hotel, but now it's condo development. I believe they're duplexes, I believe, but I don't swear to that right now. So anyway, I'll have to check on that and get back to you. But anyways, this condo complex here, and so we go Winslow Road, comes up to West Hill, connects over to Dove Hill. Dove Hill comes up across from the Village Pantry store, and then on up, kind of up a hill too. As you remember, we're dealing with, as we talked about, topography at different times. This whole section here on the once you get east of 28A and up to Route 28, you're climbing up, you're getting up to the moraine, you're getting into some rockier areas. So we go Dove Hill. Once again, it's all residential, and we get up into West Hill. And so Dove Hill comes up and goes around, okay, and meets up with West Hill. So Dove Hill comes in, up around, swings in, meets up with West Hill, which meets up with Winslow. Okay. Now I want to, this is about, here we go. Now another section, the road just down the street, it's only a small road, but Crowell Pond Road. There's a few houses in there, but there is also a house that is connected with a little path down in here, right on this pond here. So it will be concealed as you pull into Crowell Pond Road, and how to get there is through a little dirt road there. So just be aware that that's where we're at. And what we'll see on some of the maps as well, and I will refer to this because some of the maps that we're going to see and some of the maps that are shown in the GIS show this Crowell Pond and Fernwood connected, and as we can see here, they are not. And the other thing that we will see on some of the maps is that this Rockledge Drive is connected to Dove Hill, which it is not. So just something to keep in mind. They are not connected. We'll work in this development later on, but that's where we're going to be right now. Just a quick change over to another map, just showing that the way some of the numbering systems work. Obviously Dove Hill comes up and the numbers come around in West Hill, and then Winslow comes up to, this is that little new cul-de-sac area, and this is that secondary means of egress I was talking about earlier. There are hydrants through all of these neighborhoods, so, and they are properly spaced, approximately 500 feet or less apart. so we don't have that issue to deal with. And all right, let me go through to that, and I just want to show this here, which is just basically showing just what I was talking about, that we do have a water system throughout. And I wanted to show this map here, because sometimes we get a little interested in topography, but not so much of an issue here. But as we can see, we got hydrants throughout, and these being newer developments, they do have underground utilities, so we won't have to worry about that as far as the ladder is concerned. Our aerial operations. I believe the old section of Winslow may have poles, but the newer sections do. And I'll mention down here, this is what I was talking about before. Some maps show Fernwood and Kroll Pond connected, and over here we're showing a little connection even with a water line from Rockledge over to Dove Hill. So, and the other thing I want to mention, we always have to keep in mind, as I mentioned before about the train going through, but we also remember that the highway is in these folks' backyard. So as we mentioned before, we have a house fire up in here. We may see it from the highway, or if we do have some sort of a large fire on the highway, say a tanker, or we have something that would require water, then we need to keep in mind that it's good to know where these hydrants are in proximity to the highway, because in order to, if we have a large fire on the highway, we're going to need a continuous supply of water, which means somehow connecting to this hydrant here and getting a line over to here, and that is going to be difficult to do, but it may be necessary in order for us to accomplish our mission. So as I mentioned, all these roads being up close to the highway, that's one of the tactical and strategic issues that we have to always recall. I want to go to and look at some of the photographs that I took just real briefly here. And the first one we'll look at is a ranch house. This is on Winslow, on the corner of Winslow and West Hill. This is just a typical ranch for the neighborhood. Well kept, probably 1,000, 1,500 square feet. We do have a looks like a kind of derelict firebox out in the front. I don't know who takes care of that, whether the town takes care of it or whether the development takes care of it, but it looks like it needs a little attention there. In fact, it looks out of service. The next one we will go to is another house. This is on Winslow Road. This is on that section between the old section of Winslow and the new section. It is practically a 2.5, almost 3-story colonial with a large garage and probably a couple 100-foot long gravel driveway. And the reason that this caught my attention is that it is for sale, and due to this little sign in this window here and the general look of the building, it is finished on the exterior but empty on the inside. So we get called to a building fire at this house here. Who's to say that someone's living in it? They could be, but when I drove by and took the picture, there are no curtains in the windows, no sign of life or anything else at this property here. So, just something to keep in mind. That I don't know whether it's foreclosed or it's just for sale, or they're selling it as a spec house or whatever, but it didn't look like the lights were on or anybody was home. This photo here is of the typical of the multi-unit housing that is on Edgerton Drive, and I believe there are 6 to 8 of this style units, similar to the ones on Gifford Street. 4 doorbells over here, so 4 units. We have a strobe up at the top of all of the buildings, have a strobe light to show that that's the unit that's has the alarm. And as I mentioned over here, the 4 doorbells. And also right over here, there is a connection for a sprinkler system. It looks like a 2.5-inch connection for a sprinkler system. So they seem to be very well protected, very well taken care of, and seems to be access seems to be pretty good. There it is, right off of Edgerton Drive. So just be advised, and there's a box for that. Okay. And I didn't take any pictures of the other commercial buildings on that because they're just too numerous, and we'll eventually get to them anyway. But we just talked recently about the Teledyne little office building at I think it was 40 Edgerton Drive. And then we also have to remember we have the Benthos building up there. We also have the Surgery Center, which is a 1-1 box. All right, now we will go to this house, which is a house at the end of Willowfield Drive. Nothing really particularly about it, except I wanted to show that for what typical of the housing development there. This is a typical size, good sized garage, probably a bedroom or a bonus room above the garage, so we would have access up to there to get to the second floor pretty clear. But that's about it. I just wanted to show the typical for that house, for that neighborhood. And then I wanted to get into this house here. This is on Willow Nest off of 151. This is a house there, and obviously a good sized house, probably 2,000 square foot house, good access. And here we have the overhead wires here on this section of Willow Nest, and I believe halfway up or 3/4 up it goes to some underground utilities as well. All right, and just as a wrap up of lots of what we've spoken about already, we are talking about the the Dove Hill Road, Winslow Road East area of town. It is a mixed. Most of them are all wood frame single family dwellings of ranches, capes, and colonials, around 2,000 square feet. Edgerton Drive is mixed with commercial and the multifamily units. The roads in that area: Beeman Lane, Willow Nest, Willowfield, Red Oak, Edgerton, Winslow, West Hill, Dove Hill in that neighborhood, and then Crowell Pond Lane. Hazards, things that we have to be aware of anyway, are Beach House Restaurant, the commercial and issues in multifamily up in Edgerton, and the response time, Station 3, this is less than a mile away, so we need to be looking at getting there. By the time we get the call to the time you get to the scene should be under 4 minutes, and travel time should be 2 or 3 minutes, and then the time for the turnout. Station 4 is 3.4 miles away, so we're looking at 6 minutes. Once again, they're pretty close. And by the time engine gets set up, you're going to have your second engine pretty close by. And then we come up to headquarters, which is 7.2 miles away. So by the time you get your ladder and your third engine, you're going to be working up there for 6 minutes or more. The officer will probably get a good jump start, so probably get there on time. And if we need additional engines or one of those stations is out, where are we going to get them from? Well, Station 5 is nearly 8 miles away, so we're talking probably 12 plus to 15 minutes. And Station 2 is 9.5 miles away, so talking a good 15 minutes plus to get up there. And I think that about wraps it up. And I want to thank you, and we'll catch you next week where we go a little bit more south and catch up a little bit more on North Falmouth. All right, thank you. Stay safe and eat healthy.